welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today we're continuing with our recap and review of Percy Jackson and the Olympians with Season 1, Episode 6, titled, We Take a Zebra to Vegas. Now, before we get to the recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as we follow along with the rest of the season. Keep updated on all things Critic-Verse, and to help me reach my current goal of 500 subscribers. Also, I hope you've seen the episode because this video will contain spoilers. Now, on to the rest of the video. Once again, the episode was titled, We Take a Zebra to Vegas, which takes its name from Chapter 16 of The Lightning Thief. The name is in reference to the scene of the gang letting all the exotic animals out of their cages and into the Las Vegas Strip. But a majority of the episode revolves in the Lotus Casino and Hotel, where the trio seek the assistance of Hermes, the messenger god. The episode begins with the headmaster from Percy's former school is seen scolding someone who apparently is the true lightning thief, where Percy watches on only for them to address him, which he then wakes up revealing it was a dream. Annabeth and Grover are using what appears to be a sort of prism to call the camp. They call the camp and reach Luke, and he informs them what's going on there, and they tell him that Clarice is the thief. And Grover unlocks the animals' cages, which also helps them escape as well. They're looking for Hermes for a ride to LA and a plan to get into the underworld. They warn Percy not to eat any of the lotus flowers because of the story of Odysseus and how he and his soldiers were trapped for a long time after they ate the lotus flowers. They decide to split up, but someone has to stick with Percy because he's never met Hermes. So Annabeth decides to go with Percy and Grover goes alone. Annabeth begins to tell Percy about Luke's mom and how she was a seer, a human that could see through the mist, and that being with Hermes messed her up. Grover runs into a satyr mentor of his that barely remembers him or much less any other thing in his life. Him and Grover figures he ate the lotus flower. And Augustus claims he's close to finding Pan and that he's there, and he enlists Grover's help. Next, Percy tells Annabeth about his dreams and guesses the lightning bolt being stolen was just the beginning of Hades' plan. Grover starts forgetting things, but he hasn't eaten anything. Meanwhile, Annabeth and Percy meet Hermes, and he knows why they're there. Annabeth mentions Luke, and Hermes teleports them to a table to sit and talk. Annabeth then pleads to Hermes, bringing up harsh memories. But Hermes denies them his assistance and brings up some harsh memories for Percy as well. Hermes points at his watch, and Percy realizes the truth. They've been there for days and not minutes like they thought, passing the deadline. Annabeth reveals she picked Hermes' pockets and stole his keys. They are reminded of Grover and chase Augustus down to find out where he is. And Grover is actually playing a VR game, but he doesn't remember them at all. Next, they're down in the parking garage looking for Hermes' car. Hermes apparently drives a taxi cab, and he left them a note with the way into the underworld and the instructions that the car teleports when they've reached the road. Next, 12-year-old Percy has to drive the car, and you can tell he's never driven before. And as he's driving out of the parking garage, he simultaneously scrapes the car, but does manage to get them on the road. And before they're hit by a truck, they then teleport to a beach in Santa Monica where Percy needed them to go. Percy heads into the water only to find the messenger from episode 4. She informs Percy that Poseidon waited as long as he could, but he had to go to the solstice. The quest is done and Percy is relieved of his duties. He and his friends have failed, but But the emissary notes that Poseidon is proud of Percy, but he has to go back to camp for his safety. But Percy rejects this, and she gives Percy pearls for when they do get to the underworld that they can all escape, including his mother. Well, this was a much more exciting and somewhat polarizing episode, as there was much more action compared to the previous episode, but a change to the book has book readers / viewers up in anger of the episode. So here are my thoughts on episode 6. The episode already has a better feeling than the last one, given that the trio are back on the main quest, because last episode was clearly a side quest, trying to get them back onto the main quest. This is also the first time in the series that we've seen the drachmas being used as an offering to the gods, to the god of rainbows, and apparently they can make FaceTime calls with a prism and a prayer to her. And it's like they essentially made a collect call, seeing that they had to pay for it. All the cabins are declaring sides, probably based on who their parents are, and you can't really tell what's going to happen next, seeing as they're mostly just kids. Are they going to fight to kill each other? And the show is really trying to push Percy and Annabeth together with the hug she gave him in the previous episode, then with Luke's comment, but it really feels like they're far from that point. Like their relationship is just starting. But I'm still for it, just give them a little time. The quest for Pan seems to be a potential storyline they're setting up for Grover in a later season, with the constant reference to it brought up in episode 4, then told in this episode that Pan is nearby. And I just wonder if this will be wrapped up by the finale or carry over to the next season. And also I wonder, was Pan really there, or did Augustus just go crazy? Annabeth states Luke and Hermes don't get along, but Luke in episode 3 states Hermes gave him a pair of winged shoes that the trio use eventually. But could Luke have been telling the truth and Hermes was just trying to buy his son's affection? Or did he lie about getting the shoes as a gift, and maybe he could have stolen it? One thing that bugs me is that the trio was already late, but when Amnesia Grover thinks it's his fault for them being late, Percy seems to let him think that. And I can't understand why they're putting that on him. It could have been just seen as like a joke that Percy was making, but it didn't really feel that way. It kind of felt like sincere. Okay, so for the part that has infuriated the book reader portion of the audience is the fact that they do miss the deadline. And from their reaction, I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen in the book, but in the movie, they just make the deadline by like a couple minutes or so. So I guess the original author decided to make this change just to add some sort of tension or to really make the quest feel like it is a choice for Percy. Because in the movie, he's just going to rescue his mom. And also in the show, he's also just going to rescue his mom. Like, he only goes on this quest to save his mom. But now it feels like him rejecting the safety of going back to camp and continuing on the quest is his decision, compared to just going along with it just for this particular purpose of saving his mom. Now, his mom is added on to the quest because even Poseidon gave the pearls just so he could get them all from the underworld. But now the lightning bolt is the main quest, to Percy at least. But anyway, I can't wait to see how this change affects the story later in the season or for the final 2 episodes. Thanks for joining me in the Critic-Verse, and I'll see you next time.